All right, welcome to the May systems call. We did not have one in April because it conflicted with other events, but I will share my screen here and we can jump right into the agenda. Maybe some others might join us. So first, I will address the generative AI training course. We had the training event about 3 weeks ago now in late April. But all of the recordings from that session are available on the site. This is very similar to the Systems 101 website that we had last year. This contains the 5 lessons from the 5 teams that were on the generative AI training project group this year, and all of them have the slides and the recordings from that training event if you weren't able to attend them. And you can also take your time to go through these lessons at your own pace. It was quite a lot to stuff all 5 of these lessons into a single 2-hour event, but scheduling over a longer period of time would have been much more difficult for a lot of people. So you get the best of both worlds. We had one training event that was only once, so people didn't have to show up multiple times, but also you can go through this. If you want, you can do a single lesson per week. So feel free to share that widely. It is completely public. It's not locked down to members of discussion lists or anything like a lot of our Google Spaces are. Second, the ELUNA Annual Meeting took place, and we had 3 program managers attend this year. We usually have 3 total program managers attend. Like last year, it was me and Amy and Lori, and then this year it was Amy and Lori and Leslie. So we kind of switch off there. So Lori and Amy and Leslie all put the notes from the sessions that they attended and shared them with their communities, and those as well are anyone with a link can view, so you can get the lowdown there. Also, the Drifta site you can visit directly. You do not need to have registered in order to view the program files. So you can, I somehow ended up on day 4, but you can go into any of these sessions other than ones that weren't presentations. Okay, here's one with a presentation. I hope they actually uploaded it. But if they do have slides, and this one does, they're available right there, and you can download it and view it. So anything that catches your fancy, even if you weren't able to attend ELUNA, and a lot of people were because, flights and timing and hotels, but you can view the slides here and contact the presenters if you have any questions. So again, you do not have to have registered. You don't have to sign into anything. All these files are fully available on the Drifta site. I will also mention that we have Ducks program days coming up. Even though we are not Ducks, there's a lot of good content in there that is relevant to systems folks. So these are going to take place across a couple of days, some morning sessions and then some afternoon sessions in early June. So you can look here at the full schedule and logistics, but you see there's going to be presentations on using Wave, for example, to assess your web pages, find some accessibility errors that you can address, some things about PDF formats and how the file is created. So some things that people, even though you are not necessarily the Ducks person, although we do have a lot of overlap, they're things that people might end up coming to you as the systems person to ask about. So I would definitely give this schedule a look. You sign up for individual sessions, and then when you register, you select which ones you plan to attend, and then you will receive emails with the calendar invitations and the Zoom links to these sessions. Not all of them are going to be recorded. The presentation type ones are going to be recorded. It does note on the schedule whether it's going to be recorded, and you can watch it later if you can't make it. But there are several like conversational sessions that are intended to encourage participation, so they are not going to be recorded. All right, now we are going to jump into the Primo Release Testing Standing Group, which has a lot of exciting content to talk about, including both the May release notes, which Wade can talk about, and then Carlos is going to demo our new add-ons repository. So I'll stop my share. I can get this window out of my way. There we go.
You want to go first, Carlos?
Sure, I can share the repo. Go ahead and share my screen. Perfect. So the GitHub repo is showing. I can quickly talk about it. So one of the goals that we had for NDE is we started working with add-ons, how to basically take the VE modules and make them into NDE add-ons. And we started testing add-ons first, and then we needed a way to share these in a single file. And what we've came up with is this repo here, which takes the Exlibris custom module repo, and we use that to develop the add-ons and components, but it splits the builds in the source file. So we're able to host all the add-ons using one custom module, which we've renamed to Orca add-ons. And that is to avoid any conflicts of if you use add-ons from other third-party vendors. So that is the naming convention that we're choosing uh, for these add-ons. And then part of the process is that it uses workflows. So basically, if you would like to develop an add-on, you would download this locally to your computer, and the setup is the same as the custom module. So you'd still have to have Node and Angular and all those developing items on your machine. But once you get a working environment set up and you work on your add-on via a branch, so we're separating each add-on by branch, you can then create a pull request to this repo, and it will once we will review the work, and then once it's ready to go, you would submit that branch to main, and this repo will automatically publish that to pages. And you can see here we have an example, which I've been using this Orca test banner just to test this repo out. And we're also developing documentation so that if you're not interested in the development portion, but you do want to use one of the add-ons, you can easily get the items that you need. So the name, the URL, and then add that to the add-on in Alma configurations. And I think for this part, for the documentation, we might not host it here. It'll be on GitHub, but there might be a page on the Orbis Cascade website. So, and then the repo, if you thought we've tested this, and we've developed a few test add-ons and went through the process, and everything is working smoothly locally and also live. So I did create this Orca test banner to test this repo out, and it's being hosted via GitHub pages on this NDE add-ons repo, and you can see that this is a live NDE view that is loading that add-on from this repo. And if you do want to, we're to the point where we're ready to share for anyone that's interested in testing for feedback on this workflow. It's different than if you've developed VE modules, but I think the implementation of like the add-ons is easier, but developing is a different process. But so this is a new development workflow. So if anyone wants to test this out, this repo is public. You can clone it. If you're comfortable with developing uh, components in the Ex Libris custom main module, this is the exact same thing with the difference that when you run a build, um, it's going to create separate add-ons, and you can just follow the process. We've done this a few times, and we haven't had any issues. So just opening up this repo to anyone for feedback, and yeah, that would be great. I don't know if I missed anything, Wade.
No, I don't think so. Just to a reminder or review, the add-ons are sort of the replacement for program customizations, or a replacement for the central package that we use currently with VE. So this will be an easy way to take, to include individual customizations in your Primo NDE interface. And does anybody have questions or comments about this, or just anything related to NDE right now? Oh, Orbis, Gavin, I think it stands for Orbis Cascade Alliance. So kind of using the OR for Orbis.
Yeah, and we're using that to
It will be the naming convention of the add-ons that we'll develop. We've decided we'll include an Orca prefix, just so if eventually these may get mixed in with other add-ons from other institutions in some kind of more public repository outside of the Alliance. It's sort of like the Alma kind of shared the I forget what they're called in Alma, but you can have the little plugin things and
Yeah, the cloud
community
apps.
zones of norm rules, stuff like that. Yeah, and Carlos has done, a fabulous job in building out this repository, and setting up a slick YAML-based workflow that, not to get into any of the gory details, but it will, as we add add-ons to this, it generates it and publishes the add-ons in a form that can be used within Alma in the, when you add add-ons to the NDE. So it's a pretty slick solution. And I can mention, so if there aren't any other NDE questions or thoughts that anybody wants to share. So the May release on the VE side was a pretty small one. We're still under a results limit throttle right now with VE results due to high traffic and that Ex Libris is trying to deal with. So that will continue for May, the temporary limit of 500 results per search. And I don't know if anybody, I'd be curious if any patrons have noticed that. I was just trying to test a second ago, but I didn't make it yet. It looked like once they introduced this limit, I was noticing that I could still page through 1,000 results sometimes. At least a couple times I did. So I don't know how part of a limit that is, but I mean, the limit before was 2,000, so it isn't too restrictive. I mean, it's not orders of magnitude different than the restriction that was in place. The other thing for VE in the May release was prioritizing online services based on current year access. And so that impacts basically electronic journal search results, where if you want to prioritize the electronic resource based on which of your providers has current year access, you can do so. So if you have The Economist from a few different providers and one of them has current year access and the others don't, then the prioritization will privilege the journal with current year access. And then there were a lot of additions and some of these I think were catch up to VE, a lot of updates to Primo NDE. One of them that's NDE specific is you can now do some customization of the NDE landing page from within Alma itself. And that's still pretty limited, but it gives you it gives you the ability to change in the NDE homepage. There's a bar of links with icons. You can customize that basically. Is what you can do with that feature. There's voice search available now. Topic overview. The export all action is now available in NDE. A remembering patron default sort. And some of these require configuration so that you can look at the release notes for more details on each of these. Search inside journal is available in NDE now. And expand results options, which is similar to what's available in VE. So that's, I'll leave it at that. And if anybody has any questions or comments, use chat or just speak up. Nope. Okay.
Okay, related to NDE, I don't remember when, but it was several months ago. I think 2025, one of those months. All the days and years just blend together now. I did a poll during one of these calls about when institutions plan to go live, and I would like to do that again. So I'm going to launch that now. And if you know when your institution is going to go live, please respond with that particular quarter. And if you still don't know yet, there's an option way at the bottom for that. So I'd just like to get a temperature check. Okay, we're at 14 to 17 participants. And I don't know if we have folks here for multiple folks in the same institution. Oh, 16 to 17. Oh, 16 of 16. Somebody just dropped off. So I will end the poll and we'll view the results here. It looks like a lot of you are going live summer 2027. 63% plan to go live. I assume summer is end of May to early August of next year. We do have one going live this summer and one going live this fall, and then one waiting until fall 2027, and 3 still don't know yet. So last time I ran this poll, I think it was over 60% were in the don't know yet category. So we've got plans. That's good. Oh yeah, Margaret comments that we could create our own cohort. Exlibris has been doing live cohorts to, I don't know if they would do one specifically for us, but since a lot of people are going live at the same time, we have lots of opportunities to communicate. Okay, I'll stop sharing that poll. Does anyone have any other topics related to NDE while we still have Wade and Carlos here? Either add-ons or releases or anything else? Michelle notes that COCC is going, it's fall, but it's like between summer and fall. Margaret notes that ELUNA has lots of NDE presentations. Yeah, so we have that link to the Drifta site with lots and lots of presentations related to NDE.
Anybody was there, any recommendations on that? Any recommendations on presentations? Margaret or Tamara, anybody? I don't know how many folks went.
There were a couple that I really liked. There was one from Southern California where they talked about running their implementation project. They were doing a lot of UX testing ahead of time, and they set it up to be very reproducible. And so they went through the IRB process and did it that way. And then they talked a lot about how to entice students, and they definitely found that food cards were not helpful, but asking teachers to collaborate with them to give them credit was, and asking teachers to incorporate some of the testing that they wanted done into the projects that the class was doing was very helpful as well. So I thought that was helpful insight and ideas.
Great, thanks, Margaret.
Margaret, if you know the title of that one and can put it in the agenda, then people can look for it in the Drifta site.
Yeah, let me see. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I personally found candy to be a very good enticement for students, but that was when I was doing usability testing that was like very short, like less than 5 minutes. And then I
Yeah.
also had a few who would sneakily grab the candy and run away before I could grab them and make them do the test. So some losses there.
Along the lines of UX testing, I talked with the folks from OSU who went, and I think, Wei, you're here, but they had done some user testing where they started not from the catalog, but just from the concept of trying to find information online and asking people to do that kind of search, and really record what they're thinking, what they're doing, and see whether they actually even use the catalog, which we know many people don't start with. So I thought that was good insight.
And so that one, I think it was Ian Schofield in there and
Yeah.
Wait. So
And Uda.
yeah, so they presented that to our council members as well. So you can talk
nice.
to your dean or director and see if they have materials. And also at Online Northwest a couple of weeks ago. So the version of that presentation is also on the Online Northwest site. I don't know if there are variations between the presentations and you could grab different bits of information.
Okay. Thank you. No, it's the same thing. It's just like for ELUNA, we add a little bit of Primo analytics data, the referral data. So basically, so rather than just depend on the videos, we also show some like large scale web traffic. So basically we talk about the referral is limited because they don't tell the whole workflow. We don't know why data shows some redirection from Google or something like that. So that's why we use video to see how people really start and why or where they switch to Primo. So that's kind of the missing point of that PA data. That's only 2 slides added to the ELUNA audience. Yeah, thank you. That's it. Oh, the other one is talking about recommendation. On Friday, there's one from May 1st. I think promoting the Primo Search API for pedagogical purpose. That one is also from SDSU. I copy paste in the chat. That one, I didn't come to that one, but I heard someone talk about that, and the reader slide is interesting. It's kind of like a combination of API and AI. That's interesting idea. So they're kind of like a search assistant before you start, or kind of like they build something outside Primo, but using the Primo data kind of thing. I think that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I was just getting that link into our agenda so everyone can find it. And I'm pasting the title of the one that Margaret's recommending. It's not NDE without U and X by Cal State. And Margaret notes that presentation also pointed that asking professors to include testing in their assignments also meant a greater diversity of testers than volunteers or recruitment. Yeah, that is a limitation when you just rely on people walking into the library. They're going to be a different set of patrons than the ones who never attend physically. Can look up the OSU's presentation and add that later. So also under new business, we have a couple of, first a quick one that is me and the other program managers were wondering. So we had previously placed information about community calls and events on the website, and we would put them in emails, and then it was pretty much up to people to either email Elizabeth and say, please add this to my calendar, and then she would add you to the events, or to create the events in your calendar yourself, and then we sent reminders. Oh, thank you, Hui. I will add that link. So the link to Hui's presentation is now on the agenda as well. So this year I experimented with including the ICS files that you could use to import into your calendars instead of having to create it manually. We were wondering, because I'm the only program manager who tried this, has anybody actually used that? Did anybody use that file to put it in your calendar, or did you just email Elizabeth or make it manually like before? Okay, we have one vote from Gavin that the ICS file was useful. So
Yeah, I agree, Tamara. I Yeah, I use ICS files for sure.
Okay. Okay, so at least 6 people here have actually used the file. It is definitely worth including. And we can get those from Zoom and include those as well. But yeah, I was wondering if I should continue doing that, or if it wasn't useful to people and I should have people register. Register is another layer of complication. So I will continue to.
Yeah, and just a tip, I'm probably the last person on the planet that knew this, but I just use Outlook Web for email, and I just recently discovered that you can drag the ICS file just onto the calendar and it will add it. And I may be the last person that you could do that. And I would, open the ICS, or copy meeting details and then manually create a calendar event. But now I know I can just drag the ICS file onto Outlook Web.
And if you're a Google person, you do have to do a couple of clicks. You have to go into the setting for your calendar and then under import, and then you can upload the file. But yeah, hopefully it saves a little bit of at least mental overhead. And Margaret votes for making Elizabeth's life easier. So the next item on the agenda is something that has come up recently on the systems discussion list and was related to Reed College, not to call you out, but you're the ones who have been battling it most fiercely, and that is bot traffic flooding Primo. So as a recap, if you had silent login enabled for your single sign-in system, when somebody visits that page, it will automatically go through to the single sign-on and try to check if you have an existing session before sending the patron back with either the information that this patron is logged in and then it matches to the record and shows their account information, or it says you're not signed in and it's a guest. But either way, it does hit that SSO layer, which is a problem when the traffic is not human. And this is not Primo related, but the Alliance has been battling bots as well on Archives West, which is very enticing and tasty to these kinds of bots who are harvesting information to sell to mostly LLM companies to train their models. And I'll just give a short rundown of my experience there. We at the peak found that we were getting thousands of requests per second, and it was pretty difficult to make it stop, to completely block that traffic. We had to use Amazon's web application firewall and their cloud front. Well, I think they call it something else. There's a couple of different, that layer, but it's a domain name catcher. So instead of it going to your server, when it's at the domain name lookup part, it heads to that interceptor. In our case, it's AWS. In other services, it may be their service to catch it, and then it checks whether it matches traffic that it knows to be bot traffic and then blocks it at that point. So it doesn't even hit your server and overwhelm you with traffic. So on the Primo side, you can disable the silent login if that is something you have and it's been an issue. If you have control over the domain name, you can potentially do it that way to block the traffic. You associate the domain name not with your own service, like going directly from your custom domain name to Primo. I have not heard of anybody doing this on Primo. I'm talking about Archives West, so I'm just extrapolating. So like archiveswest.orbiscascade.org does not go to the Archives West website directly. It goes to AWS's firewall, and then it redirects through an application load balancer to Archives West after it has verified that it is not a bot traffic. It also had a lot of difficulty identifying even though it's set up to identify bots, we were getting a lot of traffic that was counting as not bot, but it clearly wasn't, because there is no reason that people in Singapore and China are using Archives West so heavily that we're getting hundreds or thousands of requests per second from these countries. So we did have to also enable a CAPTCHA, which is the bane of everybody's modern existence. Of course, when you visit a website and then it says, prove that you're a human, we had to do that, because otherwise it was causing the server to slow down or completely crash. So it's a fight that a lot of us are having. Laura from Reed, back to the Primo side, says something trying to get Reed folks to articulate is why we feel the bots are a problem. So articulating to Clarivate, convincing them it's a problem.
Yeah, I think like I mean, at Reed, people have been like, this is unethical, this is malicious, this is like unacceptable. And you know, as the person like trying to communicate that to Ex Libris, I kind of need to be able to say why it's unacceptable, I think. And clearly if it takes down Primo, that's clearly unacceptable. It needs to, you know, Primo needs to be there for our real users. But you know, other than that, I'm kind of struggling. Like I get everybody doesn't like it and it feels bad, but you know, I can't put in a case that's like, hey, Ex Libris, this feels bad, make it stop. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm curious about like do we just need to adjust to this kind of traffic, and as long as it doesn't take things down, it's fine? Or do we have other reasons for saying like, please don't do this anymore? Like what, you know, and that's like, you know, even if we can't enforce that, please don't do this anymore. I still kind of am interested to know why.
Well, have you looked at your analytics as well? Because it also affects, like in Archives West, we can't guarantee that all of the visits that we say you're getting to your pages are real. We've done our best to catch people who are not real, but if they're still in the United States running that bot and they're not getting flagged as a bot and they're sophisticated enough to get around that CAPTCHA as a bot, and I think eventually the bots are going to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to up our defenses, but it could affect analytics as well, which is problematic, especially if you rely on analytics a lot for reporting to your administration.
And one update too, that like Ex Libris said that they blocked that one version of Chrome, and that has cut the traffic down for us to totally normal. You know, it seems like totally reasonable human things now, and that's held for a few days. With the exception of there's like still like 7,000 sessions per day from Belgium, and I don't know what those are doing, but they are still there a little bit. So thankfully that did help. But I assume that, you know, at some point this will come back.
And Margaret notes that UO has been impacted by bots on DSpace for their archival digital collections as well, which I've heard a lot from around the world in the archival spaces. And Wade also at UW, they've been getting hit by bots in DSpace. And Laura also brings up whether the traffic violates contracts. It definitely would if they were getting to the full text, because a lot of the publisher or the aggregator contracts specify that it can't be used for scraping AI. And that is Jesse Holden's domain, but I know he's been doing a lot of work in that area, trying to get that language nailed down so that researchers who actually are using the tools for legitimate reasons can still use it. Like they're doing reviews, they're doing digital humanities things. They do need to use some of these tools, but we don't want it to be harvesting all this stuff to train LLMs.
Do you know off the top of your head if there's any OCLC? I don't really understand our contract ecosystem with OCLC, but is there any is that that doesn't go through the Alliance, right? Any OCLC contracts?
No,
Yeah.
every institution we have requirements. Every
Uh-huh.
institution has to have a particular service with OCLC so that we can all use the same cataloging tools. But no, we don't negotiate at that level.
Okay.
And it is kind of tricky because we're talking about an index. Yeah, those publishers are concerned about the actual access of full text.
Mm-hmm.
And Primo is just an index. So I honestly don't know why the bots like Primo so much, because they're not getting anything out of it really, except titles, and those are very easily obtained through other sources. It seems like they're just gobbling everything up they can see.
Yeah. I was like reviewing a day's worth of search logs, and it's like all these advanced searches. And it seemed like a lot of it was probably that particular day, but like a lot of it had come from IMDb, and then they were throwing different snippets of text from IMDb and throwing that into Primo. Um, it was weird. I don't know what they're doing. I don't get it.
Hmm. So if anybody has Google Analytics set up in your Primo and you can look at the traffic and see where it's coming from, I'd be curious, since we don't actually run a library at the Central Alliance, but I would be curious to see if you're seeing impacts there, if you're seeing tons and tons of traffic from Australia and Belgium and Singapore, and there's no need for those people to be using our catalogs all the way over here in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, share that information on the discussion lists, because I'd like to see whether it's having a bigger impact than, I know Reed has definitely felt the impact because it was affecting their single sign-on system, and because they got an email directly from Ex Libris complaining, and it was because it was not a human who was using that particular client. But it's likely impacting more people, and unless our Primo or Alma instances go down, we might not notice. But you can take a look at your analytics and check. Okay, are there any other topics of conversation for our last 15 minutes?
Can I ask a quick question about Alma Specto, which I admit I haven't like been like really up to date on what's going on with it. But the what is it called, like basic or essentials or whatever it is, that is like we are paying for that from like via like we're all in on that, right?
Yes, that
Okay.
is Alma Digital, is just being rebranded as Alma Specto with a couple of new features and a new interface. So it's still included in our sales contract.
Okay. And we have no like there's multiple people using it. Like we have no intention of dropping that in the near future, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and I can't
what they
remember.
what they described at ELUNA about Specto is that there's Specto Basic, which is what we have and we will continue to have, and they're not going to change that. But then there's going to be Specto, I don't know, Premier or whatever they're calling it. And they're really pushing use for archives and AI cataloging of those archives, archival materials. So
Yeah, so it's one of those, we get some, and then there's a premium service that you would need to subscribe to if you want those additional features, like AI created digital collections. You just put the information there in Alma, and then boom, pretty interface with all this AI enhanced information. That's what they've been showing in the demos. So Amy Kokenauer sent something out to everybody about that. The last time that we got I don't know if she sent it to announce or she sent it to individual lists, but I do remember she sent it. And so like most rollouts of interface changes in Alma, it's not going to impact you right away in a release. I don't remember which one. It will be possible to turn it on if you choose. So it's opt out by default, and then you can turn it on to see it. And then later it will become on by default. And then eventually it will be the only interface that you get. So similar to when they were making the interface changes to title searches. Margaret says in the chat related to our previous discussion on bots, one of UO's devs suggests turnstile as a CAPTCHA alternative, and it's supposed to be more accessible. Although I didn't go too far down that line of reasoning of us having to put a cloud front or a cloud flare or turnstile layer on our own domains before it even hits Ex Libris, because it's an additional cost. It's actually a costly cost. I'm shocked when I see the monthly fees. We're not talking thousands, but it's like bigger than you would think. And I don't think that's reasonable. It's something that Ex Libris should be controlling. But if you have your own interfaces that Ex Libris is not controlling and another vendor is not, such as your own installation of digital collections, then you might have to look at those options. Okay, so our next community call is going to be June 11th, 2026 at the same time, and we don't have any scheduled over the summer, so that will be the final one for this year until possibly September. And we are going to have Amy Kokenauer here with us to talk about accessibility. I'm sure you've seen the messages go out that the deadline for WCAG 2.0 compliance was extended to next year. So you don't have to rush to remediate immediately, but it is something that people need to be working on. So Amy will be here to discuss all of that stuff and techniques and all the goodies in her brain. So I will see you in about a month.